Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. We are super excited to have you here, and I am super excited to be back. I am back now from maternity leave, and I want to give a big shout out to Megan, who has been running these lives for me while I was away. So go back. You can find them on YouTube, and they'll be shortly uploaded to our website to see the fabulous lives that were run by Megan, my wonderful co-host, while I was gone. But we've got a great topic today. We're going to be talking with Tiffany with the Anchorage School District, and so we'll dive right into that. But first, I wanted to say hello to Megan. How are you doing today? Happy Thursday.
It's a sunny day. I've been enjoying all this sunny weather in Alaska. I mean, it can't get in. This is why we live here, you know? It's like,
Yep.
Finally.
For the summer, for the 2 months of summer. All right. And then Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you. So maybe we can start off with a quick introduction and a little bit more about what you do.
Hi, everyone. I am the menu planner for the Anchorage School District Student Nutrition. We have 83 plus schools that serve lunch, warm, hopefully, to the students every day during the school year. During the summer, we are at 14 schools for the month of June, and then we're down to 4 or 5 for the month of July. We do try to feed kids as much as we can year round. To do that, we have a central kitchen. So I don't know if you can see her or not, but my co-conspirator over there is our central kitchen manager. Her name is Susan Sery. She'll jump in and say hi randomly. Her camera isn't working. I apologize. We have 24 staff members that pump out 8,600 meals a day during the school year, and that only covers 50 or so of our elementary. The rest is made fresh on site for the other 30 schools in our district. We are making small changes every day to get it fresher and more adventurous for our schools as we go through this. So that's the briefest rundown I can think of for you.
That's a lot. That's a lot of meals.
Yeah.
That's a lot of schools, a lot of kids. That is a robust system.
We cover Girdwood all the way up to Mirror Lake Middle School as our northernmost. So that's 40,000 plus students that we are trying to feed every day. We succeed in serving 13 to 17,000, depends on the day. So
that's amazing. So shout out to that. Oh my goodness. No, thank you so much for sharing. That's super insightful. And I had no idea that it was that much ground that you covered. So thank you. So to dive into our first question, so as a menu planner for the Anchorage School District, we know you deal with some food safety challenges on a large scale. So from a manufacturer's standpoint, how can manufacturers, small business owners in Alaska learn from experience and ensure the safety of their products, especially with dealing with distribution networks?
So the first thing to do is get really comfortable with the rules and regulations. I cannot stress that enough. Coming in here, I was pretty much in it and reading it every day when I was first brought on, just to make sure that I did know all the little nitty gritties in case something popped up. And one of the new things that Susan has implemented here recently is we call it fresh set of eyes. So we'll bring somebody from one of the different departments to walk through who's also familiar with food safety and let them take a look, because we live in this kitchen. We're here every day. We see the same thing every day, and you go a little bit eye blind. So bring in a fellow manufacturer or one of the people at MEP that you talk to on a regular basis and just have them do a walkthrough, because they don't see it every day. They'll notice, oh, you have a wire sticking out from behind this thing. Yeah, you tuck it away every morning. What can we do to fix it? So the best example is during COVID. Susan was out sick for a week, so I was in charge, and I tried not to touch all the things. But I noticed that the staff wasn't using their stress mats because they're up and they're on their feet for 8 hours a day working assembly line style. And we have the stress mats, but they weren't using them. So I started asking questions. So it was a fresh set of eyes. When you see them not using them, you don't question it after 4 or 5 days. It's just the way it is. Well, I asked the question because I didn't know. And it's because they became a tripping hazard. They were old. And we hadn't realized that where people stand, there wasn't any more cushion. And the workers were so used to it that they didn't ask questions. They didn't express anything until somebody asked. So a fresh set of eyes is very helpful. And it was definitely a learning experience to me because I didn't know any better. So I just asked questions. Gotta love being new on the job.
I think that's an important part of just growing something, period. You know, like you go into something new, you don't know everything. You're not going to know everything. You have to ask the questions. And so having that fresh set of eyes is huge for all, I mean, not just food safety. There's so many different aspects that fresh set of eyes can be so valuable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I feel like, especially just like in a business aspect, we've talked about this so much. A lot of the times, like you live it and you breathe it every single day. And so you're just like, so in the middle of it, you're not really seeing any of the outside stuff. So like even like small things like acronyms or just things you do every day. And then you're like, oh, wait, if I see it like that, or if I say it like that, outsiders that aren't in this little bubble that I've been living in aren't going to understand that. And so I do think it's really important. I'm glad that you're able to kind of like see that, just like shifting that makes a huge difference. So thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
So moving on to packaging. So we know that Anchorage School District invests in some packaging solutions to maintain food quality and safety. How can insights from these investments benefit manufacturers and small businesses to improve their own packaging practices to meet the regulatory standards?
So with that, I'm going to steal your question number 4, just so you're aware, the sustainability aspect of it too. Because for Anchorage School District, the vast majority of our elementaries, that's 60 plus elementaries in the district, have been running what we call hot packs. They're a 2-compartment tray. They're black, they're overwrapped, and they were cost effective. That doesn't leave the food looking overly appealing. But when you're pumping out during COVID 15,000 meals a day, you go with what you have access to and what you can afford to do. But here we are coming out of it, and now we're asking the question, how can we make the food that are in these packages, because we're stuck in the packages for a few more years still, how can we make it more appealing? And how can we make it more sustainable? Because hard black package for breakdown purposes in the trash heaps, that's going to be there a minute. So one of the things we've started looking at is the compostable trays. They are more costly, but we have to balance that with sustainability for not just ourselves, but for the planet, and making sure that our carbon footprint is minimized as much as we can. Secondly, how can we reuse what we already have? We have trays that we use out at the middle and high schools that are different than what we use at the elementaries. Can we repurpose those and use them in more than one location? That way we're not having 4 or 5 trays or 4 or 5 different containers, storage containers. How can we have one and multi-purpose it so that we're not having multiple SKUs on our own list? Past that, let's see, the safety side of things when it comes to packaging. We are looking into freeze-dried food and portion controlled food for grab and go breakfasts. One of the issues that we ran into years ago was it was compostable packaging and it was portion controlled, and we thought it met all of our needs, but it had one of those little fresh packs in it because it was a shelf stable meal and it had a little fresh pack. Well, we ran into an issue of, I think it was a kindergartner opened up the little fresh pack and tried to eat it. Fortunately, the teacher noticed and stopped everything, and they came back to us because we didn't think about it, because those little packets are in so many things. It's, again, you're eye blind. So that was a safety thing that wasn't on anybody's radar, but now it is. So finding a solution to that is sustainable and food safe was a big practice. The easiest solution was we just didn't buy the product that had those in it anymore. We switched to less questionable practices. There wasn't anything wrong with it, but when you're dealing with pre-K and kindergarten, you have to think about those items that most of us, it's just one of those daily items we don't think about. So just changing that, and the food safety side of that, again, the eye blind and bringing our own awareness to it. So
When it comes to that sustainability cost, you said you went with the black packaging because it was cheaper, and now you're looking into more sustainable practices. Are you getting that support from the district? Like, because it is going to be more of a cost.
It's both. Personally, I love the new package. I think it is more visually appealing, but it's more than twice the cost of the old packaging.
Whoa.
And when you look at compostable packaging, you also have to ask the question, when it isn't being composted, is it really a save? Because most of the schools, it just goes into a normal trash bin. So the district itself has people looking into the possibility of getting into compostable trash, in which case, regardless of it being more expensive, it's the better solution. But for all of the manufacturers out there going, oh, look, it's compostable packaging, that's great. Most families aren't going to realize that it's only compostable when it is treated that way after purchase. When you take it home, think about all the paper cups from all the fast food places. And everybody's done that practice where they dissolve the cup and you have that plastic liner still left over. It's one of those, that's how you make it water safe. It's a paper cup. Paper absorbs water. Well, you have a plastic film on the inside of all of those fast food cups to keep the water from absorbing. Mm-hmm. If that cup is then just thrown away into a trash bag, is it better for the environment, is your question. That's the sustainability question that doesn't have an answer yet.
Yeah. Well, this is funny because bringing it up, like actual compostable facilities or like taking those practices, I was at home and my whole family was like, yeah, we got these spoons, they're compostable. And I'm like, yeah, but they're only compostable if you have them taken to a facility. I'm like, that's the thing that not everybody knows, right? Is there's like that psychology behind it and not really understanding the full system. Mm-hmm. So we think that we're doing better for the environment when really it's just, you're not really, right? So I'm glad that you guys are looking into those opportunities, like those resources, and actually seeing what you can do about that. Because if like you're spending twice as much money, but it's not actually fulfilling the purpose of that cost. What's the point of that?
Right.
So
that is a great point to look at, because like you said, if it's just getting thrown away, and that's something I personally didn't think of either. And I think that there maybe is like an education aspect that just we're not really aware of when it comes to that, because you could be spending all that and think you're doing really good, and then at the end of the day. So do you think when you do when you're able to move to that route and hopefully are able to start utilizing those compostable materials and then actually composting them, will you see the return on investment? Like, will you get more support once it start kind of being utilized in that way?
So it's a fun project because it's kind of going full circle right now. We've started with some compostable trays. We haven't converted everything yet, mainly because we have to buy things by the truckload. And as everybody knows, a truckload up here is a true truckload. It lasts us several years. But as we switch to the compostable trays, we're hoping to pilot compostable trash solutions at some sites with the help of gardening groups.
Ooh.
Because we're trying to bring gardens into a lot of the schools. First of all, as learning experiences. Secondly, as mental health wellness for our students. There's some studies out there about the calming effects and just being surrounded by nature and what it does for students. So working with the Parks Foundation and a couple of other groups, so then they would be able to make use of the compost. Not only is it saving on trash, now we have a use for it. Okay, well now that we're gardening, how do we make use of the food? So it's a full circle, and we've taken one step. We're hoping for two by the end of the year.
No, that's amazing. I love the different steps, like to see that. That is going to be amazing. What a cool opportunity and project to be working on.
It is a very fun project. It has a lot more steps than any of us thought. So like I said, we have one. We don't know how many steps it's going to be. We'll get there eventually.
One of my favorite lines is that we can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. And so you're one bite in and that's okay, right? You've started and there's that initiative, there's that plan, there's the forethought. Like this is, that's very exciting. And that would be a huge change for our school districts in Anchorage.
Yep.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question regarding nutritious meals that students enjoy. That's a crucial part of your role that you play.
Yeah.
So how can manufacturers or small business owners apply your strategies for designing appealing but nutritious products to meet the demands of consumers in Alaska?
So first, I would encourage them not to use my strategies because my strategies are horrible. So like I said, Anchorage School District, 80 plus schools. We cover almost 100 square miles or some crazy amount. I can taste test at one school and have all the kids love it or all the kids hate it. And then I go to another school and it's going to be the exact opposite. Because of our 80 plus schools, none of them have the same personality and dynamics at that school. So what we have turned around to do is we jump off the deep end a lot more than we probably should, but we found that it works because this last school year, what we started was culturally relevant meals once a month. And we had some vast, like, hit home run kind of situations. We did a Filipino, please tell me it was a Filipino dish, pancit, which went over so magically. Kids are still, by the end of the school year, we're like, are you bringing it back? Are you doing it again? It was great. We went through almost 8,000 pounds of fresh vegetables in a single meal. But then we tried Bierox, which is a German little hand pie. Did not succeed. And my kitchen manager is laughing at me because she threatened to run away if I ever tried to put it on the menu again. It was labor intensive. It took a week to make enough hand pies for the district. So we jump off the deep end a lot. However, we learn with each experience, and that's the part I would strongly encourage. Doesn't matter if it is, what was one of the managers' quote, it was a flop, but we still learned, and that's the important part. So doesn't matter if it's a stumble, if it's a roadblock, you learn from the experience. Don't run away from failure because you don't know if you'll succeed until you try. And you won't know the happy incident until you have it in front of you, because we tried, trying to remember, a spiced vegetable stew that was Ethiopian in inspiration. We did keema, which is an Arabic dish. We've tried a number of things, and I was hearing mixed feedback. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a school, and we're going to see how it goes. And I started at a middle school, and the first kid through the line for shepherd's pie was like, I don't want that. That looks atrocious. Okay. So he took the grilled cheese and he went and had his lunch. The fifth or sixth kid through the line was like, fine, I'll try it. And he sat down and he didn't eat it right away. Another dozen kids came through the line, but then you heard from the cafeteria, this is actually really good. And then the bartering started. And suddenly it was, I'll trade you 2 grilled cheese for your shepherd's pie, because we ran out. It was great. So kids' opinions, marketing, your customer base, their opinion's going to change, and you don't know what they're going to hit on and really, really like until you put it in front of them and see what happens. Hopefully they have better market research than I do, and they have a better starting point. Because we learned the kids really like curry, but they don't like curry unless you can see explicitly what's in it, because if they see the vegetables, they're not going to eat it. So if we hide them behind chicken, they'll eat them. So,
okay, I'm curious. I love the experimenting, because I think that's such an important part of just being a business owner, or like any business, right? Are you going and asking the kids before you guys come up with these different ideas? Are you like doing any surveys or talking to the different schools just to be like, hey, what's your main demographics? Oh, so Filipino dishes would fit well.
Will be. So for the first year, what we did is, of those 24 central kitchen workers, we have 6 or 7 ethnicities represented here. So it was a matter of, okay, so Ponset is something they brought in all the time, anytime we did a potluck. So I threw the question out there, how do we turn this into something that meets our nutritional requirements that are put in place by the USDA? So we played with it and we made it work, and it was close enough that they were willing to do it. So I figured when the Filipino ladies that worked here were approving enough to put it in the packaging, I figured we were close enough that the kids would like it. And I am pleased to say we only got one negative out of all 80 some odd schools. So I was very pleased with that one.
Wow.
But again, I don't get to do it very often because that was 8,000 pounds of vegetables to process.
Yeah. Well, good job for like experimenting. I already said that, but like getting these new things out to people so that they can try something new too, because that's, not something you always get at home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, the kids want fish, because when I first came on 3+ years ago, people were saying never do fish. It's not going to hold up in hot packs. It's not going to go over well. And I agreed with that to an extent. But we tried fish once last year, and rave reviews, not a single negative came back, and they're asking when it's going to be again. So like I said, until you try, because I tried expecting to fail and we didn't fail, and I was more surprised by that. Because it's fish. I can't get my kids to eat fish. So
no, I love it. You don't, you're not sure if you're going to fail unless you try. So I also love, and I mean, your perspective that you have such a vast audience, which is fun for other manufacturers. Maybe their audience is probably not going to be as big. I mean, kids tell the truth, I feel,
Yeah.
like you said, you're going to so many different schools. One school is going to be really into it and the other school isn't. And that's kind of the same, but that's why I think a big thing that we're always teaching our small businesses, manufacturers is, niche down and find your audience. I mean, your audience is kind of so big, it's kids, and kids are always changing. So it's a little bit harder to do. And yours, like you said, you don't know until you try. Yep. And then that's how you find out. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love this perspective, and I love that you're actually able to test and go and see kind of like the students' reactions and all that. I think that's really, really cool.
Well, and now that we have a platform to stand on, we're going to branch out and do actual taste testings out at some of the schools in a smaller format. Now that the kids have had that first shell shock, they're going to be a bit more receptive. But we're going to narrow it down. We're going to do better, because our eventual goal is to, yes, we have this special item, but for our 18 middle and high schools, the managers there know their students. So they'll know at West High, they want spicy. So they can add a little extra spice. At Eagle River, they may want more noodle dishes or whatever it may be. So we're giving them the ability to, pivot, right? And hit what their market needs.
Cool.
Nice. That's going to be super cool and really adaptable. So kudos to you for being able to do that. That's amazing.
I give all of the thanks to my managers for being willing to try new things, because they have to actually do the work. I just think it up.
Well, having that support is huge. So no, that's a huge win. Okay, so we're going to move into one of our last questions is, how can manufacturers and small business owners adapt their product offerings to accommodate diverse consumer needs and preferences? So kind of, you work with a huge diverse consumers. So what were your biggest tips or tricks to give to manufacturers while still maintaining profitability of their operations or of their business?
So one of the big things to watch for, especially in Alaska, is being able to make changes at the last minute. We all felt the supply chain issues 3 years ago, and we were hearing from the lower 48 how things were getting better, and we're like, no, it's not. Stop giving us false hope. So not only are you able to look and see what's on the market, but being able to adapt instead of, well, you're not going to get peaches this week. They didn't make the boat. Okay, so what can I use instead? Well, here's some apricots. How can we use those instead? That adaptability will then become very apparent when you're dealing with customers, because as the person in charge of accommodating allergies and dietary needs, I need to be able to say, well, we have an Asian rice dish on the menu, but you can't have rice. What can I give you instead? Well, I have quinoa over here to the side. Let's give you a dish with quinoa instead of rice. And being able to make that accommodation and make that change for my customers is easier to do because I'm used to having a change when I don't get the supplies I need. So just never narrowing my own focus.
I love it. Adaptability, I think, is huge. And that's a huge tip that we keep hearing for manufacturers and businesses just being started is you have to be able to adapt and pivot like you had used before, because sometimes the first thing you try isn't maybe the right avenue. And so you really got to niche down and just keep trying. But you will succeed. Like, you've had plenty of successes that you shared with us. So that's amazing. Yeah. So the last question, I'm going to kind of throw you a curveball because I know it wasn't something I sent, but something I always like to ask kind of near the end is, what are you most excited about and looking forward to in the future role that you play with the Anchorage School District?
So the thing I'm most excited about right now is we just received funding from the Chef Allen Foundation. It's titled the Plants Grant. It's all about bringing fresh food into the schools, scratch cooking, that type of thing. With that, we're encouraged to partner with local groups. So we have reached out to several local manufacturers. Thank you to my husband who works with you guys for giving me names and numbers. So that almost completely changed the scope of my job, because in the last year it has been go out and find local people who can help us put their food in our schools. So it has been a fun change for me getting out to the community and talking to people. Megan had a meetup with MEP at, was it Zip, if I remember correctly, last week. So I went home with a business card, and now I'm talking to them about some of the options. If I can get their carbonated water and such into the schools. So it's just, you never know who a good contact is going to be. So never hesitate to have that conversation. And I'm getting more confident and more comfortable with the cold calls. Because the first time somebody told me to, I was like, no. I don't talk to people. I sit in my office and I work on my computer, but now I've been forced to go out and talk to people. So it's fun. Finding the community group and expanding our network it's exciting to me. So
that's super exciting. And how cool that you get to work with some manufacturers. And yes, shout out to Qasim, being able to get those contacts and hopefully get some, local food and then feeding the students. I think that's amazing. So that's such a cool initiative, I feel like, to be working on. So Thank you. Perfect. Well, that's all I have for you today. So I hope this wasn't too painful. So no, we really appreciated getting to sit down with you, virtually and talk and learn about your initiatives and what you're doing. So it was really, really insightful, and hopefully more manufacturers can partner with you and you can get, local food in the schools. But it's just really cool, and some different tips and tricks about being adaptable that we're able to share with our manufacturers and small businesses that will tune in. And I just want to give one more shout out to Megan. So thank you so much for hosting these while I've been away. And please make sure to continue to join these lives every other Thursday. Megan?
I want to give a shout out to Susan sitting in the back over there behind Tiffany. We can't see her, but she has been a part of this conversation from the beginning as well. Unfortunately, those devices couldn't connect. But thank you, Susan, also for being here to give in some input as well.
You're welcome.
Okay, talk to you later.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. This has been such a fun conversation, and we look forward to continuing this connection and collaboration. And please continue to join in every other Thursday, and we'll be doing other fun lives. So have a great rest of your day, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Thanks.
Good job.
Perfect. Oh, and they're gone. I think it's just us.
You know what? I've learned that everybody just leaves. When I'm like, okay, good job. Thanks, everyone. Bye. And I turn it off, people just leave.
I feel like every time I did it, they were saying.
How was my in the beginning that they like how it ends? You know what I mean? Maybe I skipped that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, bye. Because I'm like, oh, yeah, they're on. I think that went well. Oh my gosh, I need to call IT or something. Because I was like, oh, it must have just been a Zoom thing. And now I'm just like, but how weird for me to have my mic and camera on during the Zoom. And it was so weird. All of a sudden I was there, but Alyssa was talking and then she went mute. So I almost was about to be like, oh, you muted yourself. But I saw everyone else nodding. So I was like, I don't understand.
That was on your laptop?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden my like screen went like dark.
Oh,
And
I
then
didn't push end stream. Did you?